The closed beta for Palia started last week and I was super excited to get an invite. I've been waiting close to 18 months for this moment, and even though I had pretty high expectations, it's been so much better than I thought it would be. And now that I'm a few days in, I thought it would be a perfect time to give my early thoughts and hopefully have a couple of helpful tips for anyone starting out. Prior to the closed beta for Palia, I had been intentionally trying to keep away from finding out too much about the game so that I could experience everything firsthand when I did finally get to play. I knew that it was a combination of a farming sim, foraging type game with an MMO, and had seen a few of the official trailers, and also I lurked on the Discord server a little bit, but other than that, I was really trying to hold back from learning more. This was mostly a good idea, I think, but it's also kind of not been a good idea because I do find now that I'm playing, I'm trying to learn a lot about the game all at once. As soon as I opened the game for the first time, I knew that this was going to be something I did not want to stop playing. It's so great and it's just so much better than I imagined. I called my character Kimber Camembert because I'm usually Kimber in games, and I think you've all noticed how much I love cheese. The character customization is simple at the moment, but it is still pretty good. There are great hair options and some fun outfits. I was a little surprised at the lack of variety in skin tone for the characters though. I do hope that more are added in the future, as I'm super pale in real life, and the lightest option is still so much darker than I am even when I tan. I'd love to hear what other people are thinking about the skin tone options so far too, as I only know the experience for me personally, but if you're also surprised or you're actually finding it fine, do let me know. In Palia, you have your own plot, which is where you kinda start the game after your initial conversation with Gina and your exploration of the town. Everyone's plot looks the same at the start, and you can eventually unlock more space to make it larger. Like many other similar games, you have a mailbox and a selling box in the front of the yard, and there is plenty of space for crops, a crafting table, and other helpful things to process materials, plus your tent and eventually your house. Gathering materials with your tools is important at the start, so I'd recommend clearing your yard as soon as you have your axe and pickaxe. Clearing your yard of the things you can clear it of anyway. The initial tools you have last forever, but you can't cut down or break anything big, so while unlocking more effective tools is eventually really helpful, you do need to keep an eye on these upgraded tools and make sure that the health bar doesn't get too low on them because they do have a limited lifespan. Exploring the village for the first time was so great and it ran really well without lag or issues. Being that I'm all the way in New Zealand, and even though I have good internet speeds and I was playing it through an Ethernet cable rather than Wi-Fi, there are only servers in North America at the moment. I was concerned the game may not run too well with me being so far away, but it ran smoothly straight away, and even now, a few days later, I've only had a couple of very small issues with the server, which is great for a closed beta. The art style in Palia is so great, and it's so consistent everywhere in the game too. I am loving to get to know the characters that live in the village and seeing the dialogue that comes up when you chat to them. I think my favourite characters so far are probably Badru, the local farmer. He is the king of puns and dad jokes. And then there's also Kenley the mayor, who you have to help him find a lost sandwich, and he just seems so bubbly. And my third favourite, there are just a lot of great characters, so I've got three favourites, is Aina, the 3,000-year-old robot, or as they call them in the game, Golem, and he specialises in fishing and he struggles with human conversation, and it's just the way he says goodbye every time, it's just really sweet. Each character in the game is unique, and you can gift them gifts and have conversations with them in an attempt to create friendships with them. You can also romance some of the villagers, but I think I'll be sticking away from that for a while. I'm just having too much fun with the rest of the game. I don't have time for romance. Over the first couple of days that I played Palia, that's real life days, not in-game days, I was focusing a lot on gathering materials and learning how to catch the bugs, grow crops, and just get a feel for the game. I was quite intimidated by the hunting at first, but when I was finally brave enough to try, I found it a lot easier than I thought it would be, and it's definitely a lot more fun than I thought it would be too. The mechanics for growing crops are a little interesting. You're given 2 plots to put down, and you have to till the soil before you can plant the seeds. The tilling part took a while, like longer than I thought it would be, but it is easy enough to do. But the hard part is making sure you have your camera and your character at the right angle and distance away from the plot so that you can plant a seed. It's so much harder than it should be. I've found the best way for me to do this is to equip the seeds and then stand at least 3 rows away from the plot that I want to place the seeds in. And then I turn my character away from the plot 180 degrees and it'll finally let me place the seeds. I do hope this mechanic is refined a little bit in the future, as it definitely tested my patience a few times. Something else that I was initially struggling with in the game, which is something that I think a lot of people are struggling with, is finding ways to make money. There are a heck of a lot of outgoings, and things like bugs and foraged items aren't worth much, so it can take a lot to make money. Selling vegetables you've grown can make you a decent amount of gold, but because I didn't have much gold in the first place, I couldn't buy many seeds, so I couldn't really grow anything more for a while. Yesterday, however, I think I found the key, at least for me, to make money within the game for now. And it's something that I had been avoiding. It's fishing. Fishing at first seemed even more intimidating and confusing than the hunting, as the way that fishing works in Palia is so different than anything I've experienced in other games. But yesterday on stream, I finally had the guts to attempt to learn to fish, and once I got the hang of it, I couldn't stop. Firstly, it's surprisingly fun. Once the fish bites, you had to start reeling it in, using your mouse to keep your lure between the 2 curved lines. It was a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. And after that first day of fishing, I found out that it's a great money maker. Catching loads of fish meant things in the rest of the game started to progress for me so much quicker. I could finally upgrade my pockets and I could afford seeds to grow vegetables. And once I had upgraded my fishing rod and I started using worms for bait, I kept making more and more money. Part of me wishes I'd started with fishing on day 1, as I think if I had done that, I would be so much better off financially in the game now. Palia at the moment doesn't have controller support, and it is apparently coming, but I find it quite interesting because I sometimes struggle using a mouse and keyboard. I get a sore shoulder or sore back, and I've got nerve damage in one of my hands, and sometimes that plays up. But I'm not struggling at all with the mouse and keyboard in Palia. I don't know if it mixes up things enough that I'm moving more than I usually would, but it's actually surprisingly quite nice. When it comes to bugs and glitches in Palia, other than 2 small server issues, there haven't been many. There have been a couple, but they're not major ones. They've been pretty small issues, and honestly, the issues and bugs are expected when a game is in beta. It's kind of the whole point of doing beta testing. Sometimes my character seems to miss a few frames when she's hitting rocks, and there was one time when I was hunting with my upgraded arrowheads that for some reason I couldn't put my arms down at all. I was just walking around like I was about to shoot my arrow somewhere. And during that same hunting session when I shot a Cernic, instead of the bag of loot showing up where the Cernic was, it showed up where I was when I shot the arrow. I mean, that would have been handy if I had realized that I'd done it, instead of like running towards where the Cernic was and being so confused about where my loot was. The strangest glitch of all that I've experienced was last night when I went to my home. When it was loaded up, it seemed to have merged with someone else's plot. My stuff was still there, but so was theirs, and I could walk into their house even though mine was still being built. They'd kind of piled on top of each other. This made the floor inside my home like panic and glitch, and when I was outside again, I could use their tools like their workbench, and I could interact with other items that they had in their yard. I couldn't access their storage or anything, thankfully, and as soon as I left my yard and went back in to reload it, it was back to normal, and this hasn't happened again. Something I love in Palia is often when you craft a furniture item, your character has 3 thought bubbles appear above their head with like shadowed furniture in the thought bubbles, and you get to choose one of those items to unlock next. From this, I discovered my new favourite item in the game. It's the Cernic model. It's not called exactly that, I think it's called the Log Cabin Cernic, and at first I thought it was just like a cute wooden model, but when I placed it, I noticed those stunning crooked eyes. It's so funny and I love it so much. I haven't interacted much with other people in the game yet, so I'm not really taking advantage of the MMO side of things. I think when I have more friends in Palia I will, but for now I'm happy with mostly playing alone. I had someone a couple of days ago try to shoot my character down with their arrows, and it made me laugh so much because it isn't that sort of the game and you can't do that. I hope they realised that that was impossible before they'd wasted more of their arrowheads. Palia is so great so far, and I can't wait to share more with you as time passes. If there's anything in particular you'd love to know about the game, or if there's something you'd like me to make a video about, do put in the comments below as I'd love some suggestions. And I'll be playing Palia a lot more on stream too, so do follow me on Twitch if you haven't already. I'll be putting the link in the description. Are you playing the closed beta for Palia? Will you be trying out the open beta? Let me know if you're already playing and if you're enjoying it so far, as I'd love to hear what you love or don't love about it. Thank you so much for watching. Do like this video and subscribe if you haven't yet. Stay fresh, cheese bags. Bye.